Hey, everybody, welcome to the SCB Steelers Inside Blitz for April 1st, 2025. And there won't be any April Fool stuff here. I'm too old and too far gone for that silly stuff. Well, not really. I'm not, but you're not going to get any of it tonight. Be that as it may, there's a ton to cover. The NFL owners meetings kind of wrapped up today. We also had Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan, Art Rooney too, all speaking for the first time in a while during their time down there in South Florida. And of course the Aaron Rodgers saga continues, and that's where I'll start tonight. Okay, let's start right there. And I wrote an article for SteelCityBlitz.com today um, about Aaron Rodgers. It's probably my fourth or fifth one that I've done, and I'm kind of tired of doing them, to be real honest with you. But it is what it is, and really the onus. That's a poor choice of words. The idea behind the article today was that I think it's a matter of time. I really do believe he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, and look, you can do the whole tea leaves stuff, and you can say, well, geez, I mean, we saw him at UCLA, excuse me, throwing with new Steeler DK Metcalf, and look, all that stuff is true. It doesn't mean anything, but it's also hard to ignore because of all the receivers in the NFL. Why would he choose DK Metcalf, who's now a Pittsburgh Steeler? And secondly, just happened to be some cameras there, getting some action shots of A-Raj and the guys throwing the ball around a little bit there. And I think most of you know by now, Aaron Rodgers does not do anything without some sort of plan or intent behind it. That's who he is. It's just what he does. Again, does that mean that he's coming to the Steelers? 100%. No, but I feel like it is. And it's not just because of that. I also look at the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers, for all the negative things that we can say over the last 8-10 years of no postseason victories, we can also say that they do not tank. They are not a franchise that is ever going to be forced to put a team on a field that is just going to go into the toilet and look to next year. Now, that doesn't mean I don't think they're not looking to next year. I think they are. I think 2026 has clearly been a big part of this. And Omar Khan even talked about it a little bit with the accumulation of comp picks. He talked about wanting to get that second rounder back somehow this year. And look, the only way you get that second rounder back is you got to trade somebody pretty substantial. George Pickens, maybe Minka Fitzpatrick. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff at the wall here, but he put it out there. So your mind has to go in a lot of different directions there. But in any case, Mason Rudolph is fine for me. I think he did enough with the Steelers, getting them into the postseason a few years ago. Let him run the show, and you can apply some of that money that you will have to pay Aaron Rodgers, which is probably going to be around $30 million. You could apply it to other positions because this roster is not a good roster. It needs upgrades, and I'm not saying that you're going to find those in free agency now. That time has passed. They had their chance to do that, and I think didn't, in part because they were waiting on Aaron Rodgers, and now here they are. But you can still use that money down the road as well. And I thought that was the way to go. But I would have been fine if they would have just gone with Mason, maybe signed another free agent veteran, and maybe an undrafted free agent rookie QB to go with Skylar Thompson, who's already there. But I just get the feeling it's going to be Rodgers. I think that he and Mike Tomlin have had a bromance, if you will, for quite some time. I think Rodgers wants to play for Tomlin. I think Tomlin's excited to have Rodgers be his quarterback, and just understand what that means, though. Everyone, understand that Aaron Rodgers isn't going to come in and run Arthur Smith's offense. He's not. He might run some of it, but Aaron Rodgers has very specific tastes when it comes to offensive mindset. Routes run a certain way. calls made a certain way. That's who he is. He, right or wrong, over his career, he's earned the right to do a lot of that. We saw Ben Roethlisberger kind of take a lot of ownership of things towards the end of his career too. And you could argue who wouldn't with Matt Canada running the show, but still, that is something that very few quarterbacks achieve. Rodgers has gotten to that point. Whether or not he and Tomlin had a good conversation that Friday that Rodgers visited the South Side, I don't know. I will assume they did. But at the end of the day, I think Rodgers is coming. I think it's a matter of time. My only concern now is how much time. I really, really, really hope he's in for minicamp and OTAs and stuff, because if this team has any chance of getting to the postseason, they've got to have cohesion, and you got to go into the season playing well, or at least being competitive as we saw last year. Take advantage of, and of course we don't know the schedule yet, but take advantage of what you can, um, knowing that they're going to backload you with divisional teams, and let's be honest, the division is going to be tough again. So I just hope the Rodgers saga gets done soon. Let me add just a couple other comments from the owners' meetings, whatever the hell you call it. The tush push was a big topic of conversation, and I don't think if I were the Philadelphia Eagles, I would be jumping for joy today, because the owners decided to table the discussion. Now they'll meet again in May, and I think that's when you're probably going to see more movement on this. They needed 24 of the 32 teams to vote against it, and I think they realized they weren't going to get it. And I argued that for a long time, that Green Bay was kind of, they're the team that introduced this. They were kind of going about this the wrong way. They were talking too much about player safety, and they were talking a lot about flow of the game. The player safety numbers, the data isn't really there yet. There is concern. Tom Pelissaro on X today pointed that out. There is significant concern for the type of catastrophic injury that can happen when you've got literally 7, 8 guys across from each other. So now you're looking at 14 guys literally, dropping their heads and slamming into each other. And no one's saying that doesn't happen on many plays. It does, but not to this extent. My argument would have been to go after the tush push as a rugby play, because that's what it is. It's not a football play. The rule has always been you cannot assist a ball carrier. Even though we've seen that being allowed more and more, with linemen kind of grabbing their running backs and pulling them into the end zone and stuff. Technically, you were never supposed to be able to do that. And if the tush push is going to stay around, then you should only have a certain amount of people allowed to do the pushing. You should only have certain positions be allowed to do it. And the defense should be able to push too. Why can't you get behind your defensive linemen and start shoving them forward? I just think it's going to get, I think when you saw what Washington did in the playoff game against Philly, that delayed the game over and over and over. You're never going to stop that stuff. Teams are going to try to get the jump, because it's really the only way you can truly defend it right now. So that's going to come back up in May, and don't be surprised if it's eventually on its way out. Couple other things, overtime. They've adopted the overtime rules from the playoffs, are now going to be in the regular season as well. It'll still be a 10-minute period. Each team will have the opportunity to have the ball regardless of what the other team does. And that's smart. I got no problem with that. They did also approve the Steelers' proposal to allow teams to have Zoom or Skype or whatever kind of meetings you want to call it during that couple of days of legal tampering during free agency. That was approved on a 1-year trial basis. And there were a few other things too, and it sounds like the league is once again going to be cracking down on things that they see as a violent or sexual nature when it comes to players celebrating, taunting, any of that stuff. They've gotten rid of this nose wipe thing that I'm not going to lie, I don't know what it means. But until I do, I'm not going to comment on it. In any case, it looks like the no fun league is at it again. And again, I say that understanding completely that I'm not sure what what some of that stuff means yet. So in any case, we will have a great show coming up on Thursday night. We are going to start focusing on the offensive side strictly of the draft, and obviously quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers will be the bulk of that conversation. We'll give the guys a chance to chime in on some of the new NFL policies that were decided this week by the owners. I'm sure they'll have thoughts on that. And then next week, we'll do the defensive side. And then the following week is draft night, and we will host our draft spectacular. We are on live for like 3+ hours. It is amazing the fact that we get so many people with us on that night. So don't miss out. Join us. It's great stuff. You get our real time reactions when the picks come in, and we have a blast doing it. So make sure you check it out this week, Thursday night, 10 o'clock. The SCB Steelers podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And thanks as always to Frank Walker Law for hosting this wonderful podcast studio, and of course our friends at Variety Sports Network as well. So hey, have a great night, Steelers fans, and we will see you on Thursday night, 10 p.m. Oh yeah, go Steelers.